Well, hey, good afternoon. Welcome back to my little gardening show. Today we are planting up some of the warm weather crops, our tomatoes and our peppers. I just finished a tray of tomatoes. We've got 4 varieties, 2 rows each. Kellogg's Breakfast, Brandywine, Dester, and True Black Brandywine. One thing that's interesting, I saved these seeds in the fall of 2014. They've been in refrigeration. They're looking really nice. I don't know if I can zoom in on the seeds here. But most of the seeds that I handled from the packets aren't near as big or furry. And it could be the variety. It could also be the fact that the seeds that I was able to save were from like the biggest, the ripest, best looking fruits. So it stands to reason that the quality is probably better. Now the big question is are these still good? Hopefully they are. We'll get them potted up. It was interesting. Last Saturday I had a chance to go to a Master Gardener's seminar. It was day long, went with Dad from like 9 to 3 o'clock at one of the local high schools in town. They had the state extension office was down, and they had some guest speakers and things. They did a couple different workshops that were relevant, that people wanted to hear about. Like one was about tomato diseases and telling the difference between bacterial and fungal and different strategies as far as managing disease in plants. There was another one a little bit on the soil science and different facts about the soil and how you can kind of improve your soil, advocating kind of doing soil tests to get a baseline on your property. Another course on pollinators and talking about how to attract bees and really try to build their populations because of all the threats with the pesticides and the different pressures, environmental pressures that they're facing. But probably the most interesting seminar of the day was on seed saving. And they had a gal from, I think it was Antioch College, come in. And she kind of gave a stripped down presentation of something that they usually do over a week long. That was actually something that she had gotten from Seed Savers nonprofit. Anyway, she was talking about the history of seeds, that even our founding fathers back then they saved seed and realized the importance of preserving the different varieties, and how there was actually a government program that where they would mail out, use the postal service to mail out seeds to settlers and farmers and people like that as the nation was expanding west. And that went on for quite some time. Abraham Lincoln was instrumental in getting the USDA started, and they that's when that program really rolled out, kind of full steam. But then the private seed companies kind of lobbied against that because they couldn't make any money because the government was giving away all the seed. Took them about 50 years, but in I think 1930 or so, they got the program shut down, and then that's when they started at the same time developing patents and things on their varieties, to where now in present day there's about 5 really big seed companies, agricultural chemical companies that control most of the seed stock in the United States. And one of the things that was kind of striking in that whole presentation was, and I'll have to research this to see, but according to her, since 1900, we've lost 97% of the genetic diversity in our crops. And most of that's attributed to, these big agricultural companies, chemical companies, patenting different traits, hybridizing varieties, basically not investing in the heirlooms, but focusing more on these hybrid varieties, and maybe focusing on, the top sellers, and so they're not developing the other ones. And so I guess she talked about a movement called the seed sovereignty movement, where they're trying to bring back heirloom seeds and things like that, and basically lobby Congress to change the laws, so that reverse some of these laws that have made it really restrictive on people to save seeds, share seeds, things of that nature. So anyway, all the more reason, again, to try to purchase heirlooms, open pollinated crops. I guess, varieties like these, there's not, laws against sharing them. They're not patented, things like that. But the hybridized varieties, on the back of the seed packets, there's she mentioned that you can tell because there's a little note about that. I mean, you can kind of use them for your own personal use, but to share them or to to sell them, you can't. You're not really supposed to do. So anyway, all that to say that I really enjoy saving seeds, and all the more reason why we should try to do that and preserve these varieties. Maybe they're not the heaviest producers. For example, a tree like Brandywine, the tomatoes that it did produce, it wasn't a ton, but it was a decent amount, compared to some maybe the hybridized varieties that are more productive, but not as doesn't have the taste that these heirlooms do. Because a lot of times, and again, this kind of generalization, but a lot of times as they they breed them for production purposes, not necessarily taste. Things that will ship well, store well, keep well, basically maximize profit. Whereas some of these other ones that are actually better tasting, maybe have a higher nutrient density, or makeup, they don't ship as well, they don't keep as well, maybe they're not as productive. So anyway, interesting stuff. We're going to start these, and then probably start my peppers. Last year we used the worm bin trays, the extra ones that I wasn't using at the time, which I'll probably use at least 3 of them to pot up peppers, because they got the depth that we're looking for. I've also got a tray that I'll probably show you in another video, that's like this. It's a wooden tray for tomatoes, so when we go to transplant them in, they'll have plenty of room to send roots down, so that they'll be a lot healthier. Whereas last time, they pretty much stayed in trays like this until it's time to plant, and so consequently the rootstock was really, really small, and it just didn't. That was one of the contributing factors to tomato crop failure of the ones that I had started anyway last year. So, let's see, any other things? Oh, yeah. So I went ahead and started another round of this butter gem, the replacement packet that Baker Creek sent. I planted all the seeds, and I just broadcast them into the tray, lightly covered them, have this on here, moisten them down. We'll see what happens next couple days. So I guess that's it for now. Until next time, happy gardening. Bye.